I can't hear anyone.
Representative, we're ready to start the meeting.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, because I couldn't hear anything, not even the countdown. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending our annual, our monthly, bi-monthly meeting for the African American Task Force. I hope everyone received a copy of the agenda. We have a few things that we will be from our subcommittees, and I thought we were going to have a presentation, but that will have to be rescheduled for another time. So without further ado, we can start with the attendance.
Okay, I will call members one by one, and if you could just indicate whether you are present. Cleon Colley. Representative Bolden.
I think she's frozen.
Okay, but we know she's here. Secretary Carol Hubbard.
Present.
Ray Jones Avery. Or Ray Avery Jones, I'm sorry. I see that she's on the call. Maybe we'll circle back. Simone Philpotts.
Is present.
Okay, Simone Philpotts. Vincent Oliver.
All right, can everyone hear me now? My computer keeps going off and coming back on. Did you get me marked present?
Yes, we're moving through the list, Representative.
Thank you, sorry.
Okay, so Richard Smith. Spencer Price has a proxy today. Bree Gannon, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Great, thank you. Director Eugene Young.
Here.
Thank you. Wendy Henry.
Present.
Attorney General Kathleen Jennings. Deputy Secretary Kimberly Chandler.
Present.
Secretary Sean Garvin.
Present.
Keith Hunt, I know he had a conflict. Cassandra Coates Johnson.
Present.
Larry Austin. Jane Hovington. Dr. Carmen Jordan Cox.
Present.
Okay, John Stevenson. Representative Ray Moore. Representative Larry Lambert.
Present.
Representative Medina Wilson Anton. Representative Melissa Minor Brown.
Present.
Representative Frank Cook. Representative Kendra Johnson.
Present.
Representative Sherry Dorsey Walker.
Present.
Representative Nnamdi Chukwucha. Representative Kevin Hensley. Senator Marie Pinkney.
Present.
Senator Elizabeth Lockman.
Present.
Senator Darius Brown. And I see as we've done roll, a couple of folks have joined. Representative Ray Moore.
Present.
Simone Philpotts.
Present.
Present. Okay, Madam Chair, I do believe we have a quorum at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Caitlin, this is Cleon. I wanted to make sure that I was marked present as well.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't see it pop on. My apologies.
No worries, no worries. Good to see everybody.
Right. Okay, if everyone has a copy of the agenda, the second item on the agenda is to accept the July 19th, 2021 meeting minutes. I hope everyone had the opportunity to read them. If there are no additions or corrections. I'll take,
Motion to approve the minutes, Madam Chair?
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Senator Lockman made a motion to approve the minutes, and who was it that second?
Senator Pinckney.
Senator Pinckney, second the amendments. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Cleon, are you able to follow here and go on with the committee meetings, the subcommittee meetings? My computer continues to go off and you're gonna lose me. So the
That's
first.
fine. I can
Okay.
take care of it. So
All right.
first up, we have the economic opportunity report and any proposed recommendations.
And we were supposed to have a presentation. I think Representative Dorsey Walker is going to explain that particular issue and recommendations that came out of that committee, which were fantastic. So we're hoping that that the bank was not able to get on this time. So hopefully they'll be able to come on at another meeting
Actually-
that's scheduled.
Pardon me, Representative, we are actually joined by Todd Mcdonald, and so I will
Oh,
yield
okay.
to him and Representative Dorsey Walker.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Del Carlo, and thank you to our chairs. In the interest of time, Mr. Todd McDonald of Liberty Bank has joined us. And if it's okay with our chairs, what I'd like to do is let Mr. McDonald of Liberty Bank present to us, and then I can follow up with the recommendations if that's all right, since we have them for a limited amount of time.
Okay, can you give us just a little background as why we have
Certainly.
Mr. McDonald on?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
We have 4 recommendations. In the interest of time, we shall do 2 today. The 2 recommendations on which we would like to focus is 1, the Delaware General Assembly should pass a resolution encouraging the state treasurer to transfer $50 million of the state's cash reserves to a qualified Black-owned bank capitalized over $300 million. The resolution should further encourage the state treasurer to engage with local governments throughout the state to encourage them to deposit portions of their cash reserves into a qualified Black-owned bank. This will allow the selected bank to open a branch in Delaware in an area currently underserved by the banking industry. It was approved by the subcommittee on November the 4th of this year with 9 yays and 1 abstention. And there is another recommendation, Ms. Del Carlo, if you would like to put that one up. Thank you so very much. The second recommendation is the Delaware General Assembly should pass a resolution encouraging the governor to establish a soft second mortgage assistance program in order to help low to moderate income borrowers purchase a home. The soft second mortgage assistance program should consist of $6.5 million in funds, which could support 100 home purchasers up to $65,000 with mortgage assistance. The program should be created using available funding, which may include federal stimulus funding under the CARES Act and the American Rescue Plan Act. It was approved by our subcommittee on November the 4th of 2021 with 10 yeses. And Madam Chair, if it's okay with you, I would like to turn the meeting over to Mr. Todd McDonald of Liberty Bank. Mr. McDonald, are you able to unmute?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you all for your time.
And
today.
welcome, Mr. McDonald.
Well, thank you for having me. And I got some things crossed on my side. So we actually having our bank board meeting simultaneously to this time. But this is a priority for our institution, and we wanted to make sure that we had someone representing Liberty on the line. So my name is Todd McDonald. I am an executive vice president here at the bank, and I'm also a board member here with Liberty. Liberty Bank is headquartered out of New Orleans, Louisiana. We were founded in 1972. And so we make 50 years next November. So we're pretty excited to make that historical mark. We are the largest African-American owned bank in the country. We have over $1 billion in assets. We're the first Black-owned institution to cross over $1 billion in assets. And we have physical locations in 11 different states. And per this presentation, we were encouraged to understand sort of Delaware and some of the banking needs in you all's community. And Liberty Bank has a history in developing very creative, not just mortgage programs, but also debt consolidation programs. We like to combat payday lending in the communities that we serve. So we actually have a loan product that goes all the way down to $500 to help refinance individuals out of 400% and 500% interest rate loans. I've actually testified in Congress on our experience with payday lending and how we try to get rid of those predatory institutions across the country. And we've also participated in many different mortgage programs where, as a Black-owned institution, we know that the key of building wealth starts with home ownership. So we've been tasked by several partners to assist them in moving the needle and increasing the percentage of home ownership in certain communities across the country. We've been in business, as I mentioned, 49 years. We'll make 50 next year. And we've been profitable for 44 out of the 49 years that we've been in business. And as an MDI, as a minority depository institution, that is pretty rare. So that is something that we're very proud of. The 5 years that we were not profitable were due to the Louisiana oil bust, which represented 3 years, 87, 88, and 89 of a loss for the bank. One loss in 1999, where we tried something new out of Alabama. And then the final year that we were not profitable was 2005 for Hurricane Katrina. At the time, Hurricane Katrina wiped out pretty much all that we had, our customer base, all of our facilities, and we essentially had to start over. But we have tremendously come back from that position since 2005. We've acquired several banks during the recession. And so over our history, we've acquired over 12 institutions. And so that's something that we've been really good at. And more recently, we've closed a transaction out of Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee. And so again, we're a full service bank, checking accounts, savings accounts. We have a credit card. We do commercial lending, mortgage lending, consumer lending. And we've even processed about 160 million in new market tax credits. Over the last, call it 8 years, we've done over $1 billion in mortgage loans to communities that have traditionally been underserved. And so again, thank you for your time today. I did want to share a 2-minute branding video if possible. I know I had, okay, let's see if this works here. Okay, there we go. It seems like the sound is not
I'm
coming.
sorry, is the sound coming through?
It is not.
Okay,
It's
let's
not.
try again.
There is a gap between what is needed and what needs are met. A company can sell a shoe, or it can inspire people to be more active. A teacher can educate a child, or motivate a future leader. A store can sell a pair of eyeglasses, or give a pair away for each one sold. And a bank can make a loan, or lend its strength to change someone's financial freedom. When you partner with Liberty Bank, you empower more people to achieve more freedom. You're also investing in a bank that is a proven leader and has impacted those who don't usually have access to fair interest rates, new opportunities, and quality financial products. As a customer of Liberty Bank, your money is circulated in the community. More people can qualify for loans, mortgages, and credit cards. Liberty is committed to financial mentorship, encouragement to businesses, and empowerment for all. So let's flip the script. So more families can buy homes, more businesses get started, and more dreams are realized. The impact on communities is immeasurable, and the return for our stakeholders is exciting. This is bigger than banking. This is what happens when money and mission meet. This is how we close the gap between what is needed and what needs are met. Bank with us. Together, we can make a difference. liberty. More than just a bank. There's freedom here. Member FDIC.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And again, that was our brand video. We truly try to be ambassadors for change in the communities that we're a part of. And we're just very proud and happy to possibly have an opportunity to also enter into the Delaware market. So I'll stop there. If they have any questions, or Representative Dorsey Walker, if you would like me to touch on anything else.
Mr. McDonald, I just want to say thank you for your time and for your willingness to come into it. We do welcome you with open arms. What I would like to do is see if I would like to actually turn it over to our chair, Representative Stephanie T Bolden, and our co-chair, Mr. Cleon Cawley, to see if they have any questions.
Sure.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Representative
sir.
Dorsey. I just have, and thank you also, Mr. McDonald, for your presentation. It's very informative. In this particular, in your bank, are you doing, or do you have a program that tries to engage any people that are somewhat classified as the unbanked people, the ones that are continuing to use check cashing places and title loans and those kinds of things? Does your
Yes.
bank incorporate any programs in that aspect? And if so, can you let us know what they are? And are any HBCUs incorporated in what you're doing as well?
Sure. So, so the first question, I'm a graduate of Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, and our chairman, Dr. Norman C. Francis, has been or was the longest tenured president for not just a HBCU, but a university here at Xavier University down in New Orleans.
Yes.
In terms of, so we have a lot of different partnerships amongst HBCUs. And to answer your first question, yes, absolutely. That $500, it goes from $500 to $10,000. That product was specifically developed by Liberty Bank to try to remove individuals out of predatory lending products. And our checking accounts and all of our products are very, very sensitive to making sure that we have not just a lower rate, but a very competitive rate to compete against even some of the bigger banks. So throughout our history, we have not been super focused on extreme profitability. Obviously, we need to be profitable in order to stay in business and to help others. But if you take a look at our website at libertybank.net, you'll see that our fees, our interest rates are competitive across the board, not just with Black-owned banks, not just with minority depository institutions, but across the board, competing against all 5,000 banks that are in business today.
Yeah, if I just to expand a little on that, my main concern is those persons that do not trust banks, or those persons that actually need access to their money immediately, the ones that are going to check cashing places and paying that ridiculous interest. So I was just wondering, because I did attend a conference this week regarding what some of the banks are putting in place to try to get what they're calling the unbanked people, trying to get them to invest in banking their money into the bank, try to develop that trust. And they're also trying to work with and work through HBCUs in order to do that. So I was just wondering, you are already established as a Black-owned bank. So do you have any programs to encourage people to invest or to deposit their funding, their money for like small businesses, barbershops, beauty salons, nail salons, those types of things that I find that most people that live in the district I represent have those types of businesses, but uncomfortable investing their money.
Sure. No, unfortunately, that is a big challenge for banks in general to instill that trust. And we directly experienced that when COVID hit during SBA PPP program. And so we had to, even including one of my uncles, you know, he had his hesitation dealing with the SBA. A lot of people, especially in the New Orleans area and in the southern regions, during Hurricane Katrina, we had a very negative experience with the small business, the SBA, and unfortunately, we had to work even harder to help businesses and individuals overcome that fear to allow them to provide and be processed in the PPP program last year. So specifically to unbanked individuals, we do have a lot of partnerships where we participate in financial literacy seminars. We do a lot of support around with nonprofits and in major churches. We have all of the banking technology that one can ask for. You can deposit checks on your phone. You can deposit cash into the ATMs and bank online 24 hours. So we've made ourselves available, and not just for people in high use with technology, but also for older individuals that still like to call in to visit their balance on a daily basis. So we've so to answer your question, we do have programs, we do have products. Before Mr. George Floyd's death, historically Black-owned banks only grew as fast as we could earn money. And so to your question, do we promote investment? Do we promote the usage of our organizations? And the answer is yes. And now that we have outside investment from major organizations across the country, we're able to expand our impact. And so we feel like a lot of different tactics, a lot of different experiences that we've been able to pick up over the years and have seen success with it. We're now in position to bring that potentially to a Delaware market or to other markets where we do not have a presence.
Thank you. Mr.
Mr.
Cawley,
McDonald.
if you can go ahead.
Yes.
and
Thank you,
go
thank
from
you.
there. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. McDonald. And I think you kind of touched on a little bit of what I was thinking about, kind of why now, why Delaware? And I get that it's the opportunity that is currently existing, but I'm hoping you can double down on that a little bit and let us know if you have other branch sites on the East Coast or some of the areas that you're looking at, and exactly why Delaware is so attractive at this time.
Sure. So as I mentioned, 5,000 banks exist right now in the banking industry just for the United States. Roughly 150 of them are minority depository institutions, MDIs. So that includes Asian-owned banks, Black-owned banks, women-owned banks. And then we have about 20 Black-owned institutions within that 150. So we really represent a very small number of banks in the banking system. When you look at in FDIC and Federal Reserve, did all of you different studies on the percentage of assets in MDIs, minority depository institutions, and consistently our loans represented the communities that we serve, whether in African-American communities, Asian communities, Hispanic communities, whereas some of the majority-owned institutions had very low single-digit numbers that represented loan balances in communities of color and underserved communities. So it is very important to support us. If you don't support Liberty, I would ask that you at least support another MDI, another Black-owned institution, because we truly are doing a lot of good work in the communities that we serve. And without your support, without support like these different programs, then we will no longer be around further causing harm to our communities and giving way to predatory lending businesses. In terms of why Delaware, just to be totally transparent, Mr. Kyle Myers introduced himself to us and said, hey, we would love to have a Black-owned institution in Delaware. We have a lot of municipalities and states that want us to come into their markets. We don't take everyone seriously at first. We kind of see, if they really have the network and the support of that community to help bring us in, because we can't just open up 1 or 100 accounts. It has to be a community effort. And so, Mr. Myers, as well as all of many representatives and politicians on this call have consistently delivered an interest where we participated in many Zoom calls and webinars to understand how we could be impactful. So we're not just in the business of opening branches, we're in the business of making money and making loans that get paid back to us. And so from the vetting process that we have internally, your market is very attractive. We could tell that your leadership in your state is extremely aware of what a Black-owned institution can bring to that community. And when we see that type of commitment, that type of support, then we're going to give the same type of energy back to those individuals. And so I hope that answered your question.
No, it absolutely did. I appreciate it. Madam Co-Chair, I did see at least a couple hands go up while we were having this conversation from others on the committee. If you're okay with that, maybe we can open it up a little bit for some additional questions.
Yes, please. Thank you.
I believe I see Mr. Myers. I see your hand up. I
Oh,
think
we
you're on
can't hear
mute.
you.
I think you're on mute.
Are they still muted?
It looks like his computer's off mute, but we can't hear him.
Okay, well, can you go to the next person?
I'm
And come
looking, Caitlin, you see
So-
who,
Are you guys hear me now?
There you go. Yeah.
there you go.
Okay, my apologies. Thank you so much, Representative and Senator Colley and the remainder of everyone on the call. Thank you so much, Representative Dorsey, for all of your work to help bring this call to life. I'm Kyle Myers. I've been in business here in Delaware for quite some time over the years. I was one of those people who, when COVID took place, our business needed access to PPP funds. Having worked with worked with Bank of America for nearly 20 years and with Chase Bank for over 15 years, both of whom on the day of submission, which was the first day that PPP loans opened up, I simultaneously hit the send button and simultaneously declined for a PPP loan. We couldn't get any answers at that time. Remember, this was back in April of last year. Todd and his family have been made known to me over the years in the investment business. And it was recommended to me that I spend some time talking with Todd. And by the time I finished with Todd, I realized that we needed to have an organization like Liberty Bank in Delaware. Liberty was expedient at processing not just my PPP loan, but every individual every business owner that I'd sent to them over the past, over those initial first 6 months or 5 months, I can't remember exactly how much time it was. It was during that time that I learned about all of the various programs. I switched my company's checking account to Liberty, to which, just like Todd said, I make deposits online. I go pick up checks in the office in Wilmington. I deposit them with my telephone. I pay payroll right through my phone. And I believe Liberty is connected with, I believe, a few different banks where you can go make deposits directly into ATMs of cash if necessary, that will accrete to your account. And I know not every bank does that. And so Liberty has an amazing amount of dexterity as it comes to servicing communities for people like myself who've been in business, who've worked with these big banks that have been left in the dark by these big banks. And I've been in Delaware for, I think I moved here when I don't remember how old, but it's been almost 32 years. And so 16 or 17. And in 32 years, we've been talking about bringing a Black-owned entity into Delaware, opening a Black-owned bank. And after my experience with Liberty, I've worked with Todd and his team to have mortgages done, not just here in Delaware, but in Maryland and in Massachusetts by his team, for friends and family members, whoever would make themselves known. So what I've seen in Liberty is a great pathway to changing the access to capital for home ownership, for small businesses, for people that look like the people that's on this call. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, comments, thoughts from the committee members? I believe I see the hand of Director Eugene Young.
Yes. This is, thank you so much, Chair Colley, and also Representative Stephanie T Bolden. I wanted to just reach out. I lower my hand. I just would like to reach out and ask that we have time here with DSHA, that we actually have time to talk about the implementation of what this will look like. Certainly as we move forward, I do believe there's a there when it comes to having minority-owned bank and minority-operated banks here in our state. And I think there is certainly a need for that. But when it comes to the distribution of funds, in particular around mortgage assistance, because it will be coming through our shop, I would love to just have time just to talk about the implementation and what that can look like and how best ways to move forward. That would be my ask as we move forward along in this process. Again, it has nothing against Mr. McDonald, the whole process, Liberty Bank, anything of that nature. I just think as our agency, we would need to, because there's some of these things that kind of in sync in line with the recommendation as a whole, but no matter what bank we work with, I think we should have, as DSHA, we should be at the table having a conversation moving forward. So it's nothing against the heart of the recommendation. I'm totally in agreement with Representative Dorsey Walker, and I thank you for even bringing this up, but I'd just like to have some time to talk it through.
Certainly, we can do some outreach and offline.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank you.
Director.
And Representative Walker, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, as I see the recommendation, while the Liberty is coming forth to kind of explain how a partnership would work, the recommendation is more of a focus on a qualified Black-owned bank. So it would open it up for opportunities and discussions of what that word qualified means, and the process by which one would be brought in through the state. And you'll correct me because I wasn't in on the conversation when the subcommittee discussed about it, but it seems more of a broader scope of this is the vision, this is where we're going, but there's going to be steps that are going to need to take place in order to get to the actual preferred vendor that would be assigned or that would come in at the end of the day if everything worked out perfectly.
That's exactly correct.
Okay.
Chair Foley.
Are there any other questions, comments, thoughts?
Mr. Chair, this is Sean Garvin. Just a quick question. I apologize if I missed something, but this is the first time I'm seeing this recommendation, and so I haven't had a chance to really chew on it or even talk to Director Young. But I do have a little bit of an uncomfortable level of voting for something that has a cabinet member telling a member of the General Assembly to pass a resolution, tell the governor to do something. I think that puts us somewhat in an awkward position. And so as I said, I defer to Director Young on the actual issue itself, but I think the wording right there could be a little bit problematic for some of the cabinet members that are on the task force.
That's why it says, Secretary Garvin, that's why it says encouraging. It doesn't say demand. We're very careful with the word.
It still puts us in a somewhat awkward position.
And may I, chairs, may I just,
Yeah, please.
may I? So I think it just would be important just for us to kind of going back to what I was saying before, just having a conversation, because there's other things that there are certainly things that are in the pipeline similar to this, and certain things that we have been in conversations about, and I just like to follow up, because just around the mechanics of, and just to make sure that we're able to assist the people moving forward, and that's regardless of whatever. And this is not have any specificity to Liberty Bank. Let me kind of separate those two. This has nothing to do with Liberty Bank. I believe in what they do. I just want to just go through the mechanics of, and just so that we make this thing solid, so when it comes through, it can be good to go. That's all. And I appreciate Representative Dorsey Walker for being willing to do so.
Absolutely, Director Young. Thank you so much.
All right. Seeing no additional hands, Representative Walker, was there anything additional you want to add before we, I guess, further discuss, or I see that there was 3 in our agenda. There was 3 recommendations, but you mentioned that you're moving forward with 2 of them today.
Yes, there actually are 4, but in the interest of time, what we decided to do was stick to the first and the second, and then recommend the 3rd and the 4th in the January meeting. If that's okay with you, Madam Chair and Mr. Co-Chair.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the last thing, I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
The last thing I did want to add, Mr. McDonald touched on it, is Liberty Bank was the bank that helped with Hurricane Katrina and the recovery efforts. And around the time that we were having the conversations, we experienced our own situation in Representative Stephanie T Bolden's district, as well as Senator Brown's district, Hurricane Ida. And because they had the experience of working with those, as Representative Stephanie T Bolden mentioned, the unbanked, Mr. Meyer, who's a member of the Economic Empowerment Subcommittee, also known as Economic Opportunity, brought them to our attention. So I just wanted to share that bit of information with all of the members. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me? Because this,
We can hear you.
okay, I think I'm gonna
Yes.
sue the state about this computer. Okay, I'm looking at the resolution, and it says the Delaware General Assembly should pass a resolution encouraging the governor to establish a soft second mortgage assistance program. Then it goes into what we're asking the governor in terms of funding, what it should consist of, 6.5 million in funds. I'm a little concerned about the amount we're asking for right away, because I think there needs to be more discussion going forward on establishing this and working with it with Liberty Bank. I don't want us to vote on something and pass it, and it just gets thrown back to us. So I'm wondering if we can have more discussion, or if we can make an adjustment to this recommendation going forward. Because I mean,
your
we're really
recommendation?
we're really specifying amounts and people.
And if possible, Madam Chair, I'm
Yes.
perfectly fine with reaching out with Representative Dorsey Walker. We can like we talk already. Like, I can have a conversation with her. We can work through the mechanics of everything, get everything settled, so we can figure something out by the time you come to January. And I'm only speaking for number 2. I'm not speaking for the first recommendation that came before us, but we can get everything finalized, and so in the next meeting in January, we'll be ready to go. Like, I'm very much comfortable with that, and we can have a conversation offline and get that straightened out, so everyone doesn't have to go through wordsmithing and things of that nature here and there.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes.
please? Madam Chair, Director Young offered his assistance and Secretary Garvin did share his concerns. I want to invite Secretary Garvin to be a part of the conversation going forward so that we can be on one accord, if he would agree to that.
Yes, yes, I would agree. And also if anyone else is interested in participating, your committee, the committee, your subcommittee that you have, I think the discussion needs to go on because it came from your committee and, the committee. We
Is Secretary Garvin still on? I just wanted to ensure that he has a willingness to work with us.
I'm still on. I certainly will work with you. My only request is, and again, I apologize if I've seen these recommendations before where they were sent out to us as a task force. I apologize. I haven't seen it, so I haven't had any chance to even have any conversations at all. So I would just request all committees before it becomes in front of the task force for us to vote on a recommendation. That would be beneficial for us to see those recommendations in advance. But a representative more than willing to work with you and Director Young in the conversations.
Thank you.
So, Representative Dorsey Walker, just so I'm clear, and I'm not trying to direct the direction, I just want to be clear. Are we saying that that team you're now going to go have a conversation, work on this language, and then bring it back to us? Is that how we're going to do it rather than wordsmith it today?
Yes, we can, in the interest of time, and then just bring it back to the committee.
Right.
And
And I'm
then we can-
sorry because I keep going off. I didn't hear the conversation from Mr. McDonald, whatever. However, whatever you come up with at this point, because I don't want to prolong it either, this discussion. But was that the agreement that came forward? If you don't hear me, it means my screen has gone off again. And then
We
it
hear-
comes back on after
No
you've had your
worries.
conversation.
We hear you now. I'll try to recap just in the interest of time. Director Young, Secretary Garvin, Representative Dorsey Walker, all have agreed to kind of take the conversation offline and then come back with a with some tweaked recommendations
For a
this
January
committee
meeting.
review- for the
Okay.
January meeting.
Thank you.
And I will offer, to the extent that you need someone from, myself involved, you just reach out. I'm happy to sit in and work with the language as well. So,
thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Okay.
all right. So with that said, and in the interest of time, is there any other additional information from the Economic Opportunity Subcommittee before we move on to the next subcommittee?
Chair Coley, can I just say I wanted to be very intentional with saying I'm not speaking anything about the number one, the recommendation. So I don't want that to hold up the first one if that's still the process. I'm just being
No.
specific. with the second one. I'm just want to make that for clarification. That's all.
I didn't, that's why I wanted to clarify. I think even though these are separate, they're so tied together in the conversation. I would say and the other one has amounts in it as well, and in language, the language regarding encouraging, it's just a different elected official. So again, just one person's thoughts. If you're going to have a discussion, or if we're going to take it offline, I say let's get all four of them in similarly situated language, and let's just bring them forward and then move the conversation then. And it kind of is a good thing in the sense that we all had a chance now to have this dialogue and to hear from Liberty. So when we come back, we're all educated on where we were, and then we can come back and move forward.
Thank you, Mr.
All right.
Chair. And just as an FYI, our state treasurer has been in attendance at pretty much all of the subcommittee meetings as well.
Absolutely. Yep. But if that's still okay with you, Representative Dorsey Walker, then we can move forward in that path.
Yes, sir. I'm just fine with that course of action. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, and
Thank
the
you.
other two were on the January agenda anyway. We were only doing the first two recommendations today.
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
And maybe we can have someone from the governor's office as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, Mr. Cawley,
All right.
before I go forward again. And if you don't hear me, then you hold the conversation till I get back on now.
I got you. You know I got you.
Special thank you to Mr. McDonald for joining us on
It's
today.
okay.
Thank you
Yes,
all again for
thank
your
you so
time.
much. Mr.
Thank you.
McDonald, but you're
Opportunity.
welcome to stay on with us. You're more than welcome.
If we did not have the board meeting going on, I would take you up on that invitation. But
That's
I do have to
okay.
drop off.
That's okay. And I know you didn't mention the fact that our president is from the state of Delaware, the great state as well. So that's a good reason to come here as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you all
Mr.
again for your
McDonald.
time
Thank you.
and consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next up, we have the Infrastructure and Environment Subcommittee. Senator Lockman or Senator Pinckney. I'm not sure which is going to speak to.
I will start, Mr. Chair, and but Senator Pinckney and I work as a team, so we will tag team this as necessary. I could take it from here if that's okay.
Yes, indeed.
Great. I just wanted, I know this isn't part of my presentation, but I wanted to start by just praising Representative Dorsey Walker. I have to say I was woken up during a sleepy time of day by those recommendations. I thought they were great. And I know we have to do our due diligence as a task force, but I think that's exactly the kind of strong work people are looking for from us. So I just wanted to make that commentary before I go into my presentation. Very impressive. And so for the Infrastructure and Environment Subcommittee, Senator Pinckney and I are here to represent the work of our group of 12. And these should be a little bit familiar. So hopefully we can be pretty brief today because we brought these forth before. We only voted or considered voting on one of them. So thank you to the full task force for helping us pass two of our prior recommendations. But we wanted to bring these two back. Number one, we had held back before because we wanted to take the time to consult with the Delaware State Housing Authority and the team there, given the transition that was going on at the time. Welcome, Director Young. So we've been able to complete those conversations and clear the path for how we wanted to prioritize some of these items from our kind of have a raft of recommendations, but these are the ones we've chosen to move forward with now. So first and foremost, we wanted to bring to you a unanimously approved recommendation from our subcommittee that the Delaware State Housing Authority engage in a study on the different ways that we can address supply of and access to affordable housing to help guide us, in particular as legislators, to our path forward to actually enable better supply and access to affordable housing. So we were basically just able to review capacity and essentially get, I would say, approval, although Director Young is absolutely welcome to comment or contradict me there, that is something that DSHA is open to, and that's why you see it before you today. Director Young?
Yes, Senator Lockman. So we had a conversation about this. I don't know my time. I lose track of time, but yes, we are as similar to in our conversation. We're in agreement around this. So absolutely.
Yes. So agency approved. Thank you. So that's the first one. Obviously, just asking for more information so that we can take strong and appropriate action on the affordable housing crisis moving forward. And the second recommendation has to do with the municipal crime-free housing and nuisance ordinances, which generated a lot of discussion last time. We did create, Caitlin Del Calo created a memo to help make sure that members of the task force could better understand what we mean by municipal crime-free and crime-free housing and nuisance ordinances as distinct from other types of nuisance ordinances that may exist, to which that term does not apply. So that was created in August and sent out multiple times to the members of this task force for that clarity. And then we also just reworded this recommendation and were able to approve it unanimously again from our subcommittee to make sure that what we meant was completely clear and that we weren't talking about prohibiting any type of nuisance ordinance when it came to the ability to take action on nuisance properties and that sort of thing. It's really a very specific type of ordinance as described here, which requires crime-free lease agreement as a condition of tenancy, mandates eviction after the tenant or members of their household commit some specific criminal activities alleged. So that's a really important keyword there within a given period. So it's not actually something that is played out through a criminal process. It's a softer way of removing people from housing. So we rephrased it to be clear about the very specific type of ordinance that we would like to make a recommendation as a body to encourage ourselves as the General Assembly to take action on. And again, that's something that we also consulted with DSHA about as well. So I would invite Senator Pinckney if I missed anything, if you wanted to add anything to that. But again, both of these recommendations have been, let's say, vetted, unanimous within our body, our subcommittee, and we've consulted with stakeholders around them and sent out additional information to members of this task force, particularly on the second topic. Senator Pinckney?
I don't have anything to add. As always, you make being your co-chair very easy because you hit everything the first time around. Just to the body that we really did take back all of the questions and concerns that you all had for us the last time that we brought the second recommendation before you. And I hope that everyone had a chance to look over the memo that Caitlin crafted and sent out to address a lot of the concerns that members presented during our last meeting.
Awesome. So I see we have a question. Ms. Carmen Jordan Cox.
Hi, how are you? I
Good.
have a question regarding the second recommendation, the second point of the second recommendation. I'm unclear about what is alleged. Is it that the persons have alleged to have committed a crime, or that the crime it is an alleged crime? I'm wondering if the verb is in the correct place. If the modifier is if the modifier is in the correct place.
Yeah, I hear you. Yes.
That to me impacts whether or not I personally can support this. That was why that's.
So whether or not that the action is alleged and not proven, or whether the act itself is criminal or not.
Right, because if I'm in a neighborhood and there are people who are actually have been convicted of committing crimes, I don't necessarily want them there. But if it's just an allegation, I view an allegation as being very different from whether or not people are actually convicted of. So those to me are very different.
Yes.
I'm just trying to figure out what the intent is of this statement.
So my understanding, and Caitlin, I would ask you to correct me if I'm getting it wrong, is that it's alleged behavior. It's not that someone has been convicted of doing that thing. It's essentially it's complaints that are being made against that tenant, not proven offenses that they're engaging in.
So so it seems that alleged should be in a different location. Esquire, I think we may need your assistance.
Yes, I need a lawyer.
I think it belongs in a different place. If that's the intent.
Okay, I'm totally open to that, and I would think we could still vote on this with that adjustment, probably, because I know that's the intent from our subcommittee. Senator Pinckney.
I think
Chair Colley?
I would say let's vote on it with that being the intent, and then that would give us flexibility to work with the correcting it outside of the meeting, because I don't have a good answer. I'm trying to buy myself time, or someone else.
So if I can jump in, so I'm referencing the memo that I prepared on this recommendation, which was sent to the task force. And I received information from the Delaware State Housing Authority that basically provided the general characteristics of these types of ordinances as they exist in Delaware. And one of the characteristics is, and I'm quoting from my memo here, in order to maintain a rental license, a landlord must evict tenants after a specified number of instances of criminal activity. Instances are not defined and therefore open to interpretation. Activity only has to be alleged. The standard for criminal activity does not even require an arrest or a conviction. So I don't know if that helps clarify it. It's somebody is accusing you of doing, you've been accused of doing something, but you haven't been arrested for it. You haven't been convicted for it. It could just be your neighbor calls the cops because they think you did something.
Right.
And that counts against you.
I think that's why I use the word complaint. I think that exactly that someone can just say, hey, I think they're dealing drugs over there. It doesn't have to be backed by any actual substantive information or action from law enforcement.
So as written though, I think it captures it as written though.
Okay.
That's why I'm missing. That's the point where guests commits a specified number of alleged criminal activities within a given period of time. So what it's saying, as I read it, is that it can't just be, hey, you have 5 alleged complaints within 6 months, so therefore you're evicted.
See, and I would argue it should be that the person's alleged to have committed a specified. Now I'm looking at this from having served on the bench as to how I would have interpreted this. Okay, so if you're alleged to have committed them, then you can't be evicted for being alleged that someone alleged you committed them. That's how I would interpret it. The way it's written now, it seems like the word is alleging is modifying the wrong thing. That's just.
So like you're saying it should be a guest allegedly commits as opposed to alleged criminal activities.
Right. So are we?
Because criminal activity is the crime is specified in the statute already. You do certain things, that is a crime. But according to what my interpretation, what Caitlin just said was the person hasn't been convicted of anything. So it is right now they can be evicted for something they allegedly did. Is that what?
So if it's me, I'm in agreement. I hear you now. I understand what you're saying. I don't know if anyone else is disagreeing.
And so we don't want a landlord to be able to evict someone for something that's just an allegation. That's the intent, right?
Yeah, that's exactly the intent.
Okay. Yes. So then we need to move the allegation before the word commit somehow.
So
I go back to this. Oh, sorry. I was just going back because it sounds like we're all in agreement with what the intent is. So going back to Mr. Cawley's recommendation, are we able to, and I'm asking because I genuinely don't know the rule in this setting, are we able to approve it with our intention and then fix the language on the back end?
But I think if it's as simple, and I'm not disagreeing, if it's as simple as saying, or a guest allegedly commits a specified number of criminal activities within a given period, then I think we could just move it.
I think we can just move it. I mean, and I'll defer to our chairs here. I think because it maintains the intention of our subcommittee, I think if we want to approve it with that modification, I would think we're in good shape.
I'm in agreement with moving it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Perfect.
You need a motion?
We need a motion.
Moving it.
If there are no
moving it.
further questions.
Excuse me, moving it with the intentions of making the corrections as discussed it. Yeah.
No, do you need a motion to move the word? Do you need a motion to change the recommendation is what I meant.
Yes, on each, and I would say we need to do each of them separately, just in case, make sure everybody's on the same page. So I will entertain a motion with regards to recommendation number 1.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Should we call roll?
Maybe.
Yeah, yes, we do need to have a proper roll call vote on these motions. Additionally, I've been receiving some emails from Karen Horton. She's listening into this call. She is from Delaware State Housing Authority, and she was a resource for me in creating the memo. And so not only is the activity, she says, whether the activity is a crime is also at question. So for example, criminal activity as defined in these ordinances can be vague and include things like loitering or honking a horn. So we're talking about the offense can be alleged, but whether that offense is even a crime can also be questionable.
So her recommendation, if I'm hearing correctly, would be saying the word alleged twice. Well, let's, Caitlin, just for the sake of my sanity, let's finish number 1 first.
Yes, I also want to note that we have 3 other subcommittees that need to report out, and we have an additional recommendation to get to. So I just want to remind everybody that we need to move as efficiently as possible.
I
Yes.
think we have a
so,
motion and a second on the table.
Motion and second on the table for number 1.
Chair, can I just, this is Sean again, just real quickly. I'm sorry, I got thrown out. I caught whatever Representative Stephanie T Bolden had, so I just got back in. So I think the motion on number 1 is pretty clear. I don't know if there was some additional changes to number 2. So if we get to that, if somebody could read it again, that would be great.
We will.
Thank
We
you.
will. Yep. So, Caitlin, can you take a roll call with regards to number 1? It's been motioned and second with no changes to the language.
Yes, and I am just going to read in alphabetical order on my spreadsheet. Carmen Jordan Cox,
Yes.
Cassandra Codes Johnson,
Yes.
Simone Philpotts,
Yes.
Cleon Cawley,
Yes.
Senator Lockman,
Yes.
Director Young,
Yes.
Secretary Hubbard,
Yes.
Representative Johnson,
Yes.
Deputy Secretary Kimberly Chandler, Representative Larry Lambert,
Yes.
Senator Marie Pinkney,
Yes.
Representative Minor Brown,
Yes.
Ray Avery Jones,
Jones Avery.
I'm sorry, Ray, I couldn't quite hear that.
It's Jones Avery.
My name is incorrect. Avery.
I'm sorry, I've got your name backwards. Are you voting yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Richard Smith,
Yes.
Secretary Garvin,
Yes.
Representative Moore,
Yes.
Representative Sherry Dorsey Walker,
Yes.
Bree Gannon, proxy for Spencer Price, I think we may have lost her. Representative Bolden,
Yes.
Wendy Henry.
Yes.
Okay, we have all members present voting yes. The motion and recommendation passes.
Do you have the number absent and no abstain?
Yes, we have 1, 2,
That were present initially and that were not there for the vote.
we have 11 members absent, all other members voting yes.
Okay, and you'll clarify that on the record. So with regards to recommendation number 2, I will read it as I believe we have agreed, and then you and folks will correct me if I'm wrong.
I have a suggestion for you as you're reading it.
Yes.
Instead of using alleged twice, the second time use presumed. So allegedly committed presumed criminal activities. How's that?
I love it, but because you're saying that, how about I ask for the motion and then you read it? And, and then we can keep it moving.
I'm just gonna be your helper here. You know, I'm just trying to come up with another word. Use the legs twice in the same sentence.
All right, either way, I can do it. All right, so I'm gonna still ask someone to.
You're an excellent barrister.
Fair enough. So the General Assembly, do I have a motion to approve? The General Assembly should pass legislation prohibiting municipal crime-free housing and nuisance ordinances that, one, require a crime-free lease agreement as a condition of tenancy, and two, mandate eviction after the tenant, a member of the tenant's household, or a guest allegedly commits a specified number of presumed criminal activities within a given period.
So moved.
With,
Second.
what about with the correction?
Those are the corrections.
Those are the corrections.
Oh, did you read the illegibly in there?
Yep, we got it.
I read the allegedly and presumed. So
Okay,
is there a motion with those corrections in there?
So moved.
Senator Pinckney.
with corrections.
And it hasn't been seconded.
Second.
Second,
This is Simone.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's been moved and second. And Caitlin, would you be kind enough to do a roll call for us?
Yes, certainly. Carmen Jordan Cox,
Yes.
Cassandra Codes Johnson,
Yes.
Simone Philpotts,
Yes.
Cleon Colley,
Yes.
Senator Lockman,
Yes.
Director Young,
Yes.
Secretary Hubbard,
Yes.
Representative Johnson,
Yes.
Deputy Secretary Kimberly Chandler,
Not voting.
not voting, Representative Larry Lambert,
Yes.
Senator Pinckney,
Yes.
Representative Minor Brown,
Yes.
Ray Jones Avery. Did I get it right that time?
yes,
Okay, thank you. Richard Smith,
Yes.
Secretary Sean Garvin,
Yes.
Representative Ray Moore,
Yes.
Representative Sherry Dorsey Walker,
Yes.
Representative Bolden.
yes, as it stands with corrections.
Okay, and Wendy Henry.
Yes.
All right, one moment while I count these. Okay, we have 18 members voting yes, 1 member abstaining, and I believe 10 members absent. The motion passes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you all.
That brings us to our next committee report.
Mr. Chair, before you go, and this, I swear this is the last time I'll speak. This is Sean again. I wanted to thank the Infrastructure and Environment Committee of having DENREC and the Division of Public Health come and speak about PFAS and talk about all of the things that we have going on as it relates to sampling and creating a MCL and a number of other things. I was going to run through a lot, but I know time is of the essence. But I think it was from what I hear, a really good conversation, a better understanding of what the state is already doing as it relates to PFAS. So I thank the committee for that opportunity. Thank you.
It was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Hey, and while we're giving kudos, I just wanted to say, as we ran through those recommendations, just great job, because those, especially, I think it was number 2, we had such a robust conversation last time. So thanks to that committee for really going back and making sure all the stakeholders were part of the dialogue and bringing it back to us on something that we could vote on and pass. So really appreciate it. So with that said, Health and Welfare Subcommittee. And I'm not sure if Representative Kendra Johnson or Melissa Minor Brown is reporting on, or if you're duly doing it?
Yes, Chair Cawley, this is Representative Kendra Johnson. We are both on the call, Representative Minor Brown and I today. What I will share is we were prepared to provide a general status update, not to discuss recommendations. And knowing that time is of the essence, we can certainly skip our status update if there are other subcommittees that are prepared with recommendations this afternoon.
Rep. Johnson, none of the other subcommittees are planning to bring recommendations forward. So
Okay.
I do think there is time for a high-level overview if the chairs are agreeable.
All right.
I'm
Say,
agreeable with that.
chairs, yes. Okay, then let's just get this started. High-level overview for everyone. So far, the Health and Welfare Subcommittee, we have held 12 meetings. Our next meeting is scheduled to occur on December the 15th. To date, two of our research groups have submitted to our subcommittee their recommendations. And we have two more research groups that have yet to present their recommendations to the subcommittee. Once all recommendations have been discussed, reviewed, and agreed upon, we will then come to this body with the recommendations for the same thing to occur within the full task force. We continue to have different groups come and present to our task force subcommittee members as it relates to topics that are connected to our research groups. The last two speakers we had let's see, we had Katrina Morrison of University of Delaware. She spoke with us on, looks like September the 15th. And the topic of that conversation was the state of Black girls in Delaware. And that was a collaborative study conducted by the National Congress of 100 Black Women, Delaware, DHSS, UD, as well as DSU. And most recently, we had a topic that was breast cancer mortality in women of color. And the guest speaker for that particular topic was Dr. Scott Siegel. So as I said at the top, our next meeting is 12:15. Once we have gone through all recommendations, we will then alert the large task force to let you know when we'd like to present to this body. Thank you so much for your time.
Perfect, thank you. Before we move on from the committee, is there any questions, thoughts, concerns that we have for the Health and Welfare Subcommittee? All right, thank you. Hearing and seeing none, we'll go to our next committee. Safety and Justice, I believe it is. Yes.
Mr. Cawley, I don't believe that Representative Chikwocha is on the line. The next subcommittee that's up is Education. However, Representative Moore is tied up in some traffic. So I'm wondering if we could move to
Recommendation.
Our next agenda item, which is a discussion of a successor entity to the African American Task Force.
Madam Chair. May I?
Yes.
May I? Or Mr. Chair. Sorry, well, I don't think it's too frivolous. I just wanted to note that I think Representative Chikwocha might not be with us because it's his birthday. So I wanted to note that on the record.
Oh, nice.
Happy birthday, Representative Chikwocha.
Absolutely. Happy birthday to him. We'll all have to text him when this is over.
I think we already did.
Well, I'll have to text him.
You have to do it. So we're going, so Caitlin, is this correct? Now we're going to go and do the recommendation?
Yes, and then
to the
after that,
successor?
Yeah,
Right.
and then we can circle back to Education Subcommittee. Thank you.
Oh, okay. It's Ray, if she's ready to.
She's not ready at this moment.
Okay.
There's an accident on
Oh, gosh, on Route
495,
1.
so.
Okay. You want to read the recommendation, Mr. Carley?
I can,
Or if everyone can just
Is-
read it, I think it's self-explanatory. We discussed this at the last meeting in terms of establishing an office in the executive branch for the purpose of studying and making recommendations to address the racial and ethnic disparities and inequities faced by minorities in the state of Delaware. Is there any questions or concerns regarding this recommendation? If not, I make a motion that we accept the recommendation.
I would second that motion.
Is there any discussion? If not, maybe-
Excuse me, Representative Bolden, this is Ray Avery. Can you hear me?
hey,
I'm
yes.
sorry, I didn't hear the prior discussion. And this question that I have is the office, what is Sandy Johnson's, what is the functional office that she is a staff for in state government around equity?
I don't know what because she went from one title to another title, so I'm not exactly sure what the title. Secretary Young, do you know, or Garvin, do you know what her title be? Because they moved. But this would be establishing an office in the executive branch for the purpose of studying and making recommendations, more like the commissions that we have for everything else. Numerous.
Okay, I'm just asking for clarification. I've been in meetings with at least 3 new people that are working directly for the governor in the area of equity.
Madam Chair, I think I found the title. I think Representative Bolden is frozen, but I believe the title is Director of Statewide Equity Initiatives, meant to work across executive branches and serve as a senior advisor on issues of equity, diversity, and inclusion.
And isn't that position in the executive branch?
It is.
But is this motion to establish an office that's more than a one position in the executive branch that's fully staffed? Is that the intent?
This is Cleon. I believe so, because the last line of the recommendation says, additionally, the legislation should move the Office of Minority Health from the Delaware Department of Health and Social Service to this newly created office. So I believe it's
disconnected.
A newly created.
Sorry, I'm disconnected again. I'm just back on. Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries.
Okay, so the Office of Minority Health is under the Bureau of Health Equity. Yeah, so this motion is calling for a study, is to have to really make recommendations of the best way to have this systemically incorporated into the executive branch. Is that correct?
Well, as written, I think it's doing a couple of things. The first is it's establishing an office in the executive branch. And then that office would then study and make recommendations to address the racial and ethnic disparities faced by minorities in the state. But then if you, in that creation of the office, this recommendation also requests that the Office of Minority Health be moved from the Delaware Department of Health and Social Services to that newly created office. So it looks like that would be a subset of this newly created office.
Mr. Cawley, I think I could provide some context here around this recommendation. And I'm sorry, Carmen, I see that your hand is up, but just for everybody's clarity, what we were thinking.
I'm sorry.
Hi, Representative. I'm just trying to give some context for where this recommendation is coming from. And so we were thinking of creating an office similar to the Office of Women's Advancement and Advocacy, or OWA, which is within DHR, which is of course in the executive branch. So it would be modeled closely after that. You are correct that, of course, we have the Director of Statewide Equity Initiatives, but in my research, I can't find any information about that office on any of the Delaware.gov websites. So it exists, but as far as I know, as a government employee, I am not familiar with their work. They don't seem to have a public facing outlet, and I could just be overlooking it. But again, where we were coming from when we came up with this recommendation was creating an office similar to the Office of Women's Advancement and Advocacy that could absorb the Office of Minority Health, which currently only has one full-time equivalent employee and only has a budget of $45,000, aside from the salary for that full-time employee. And so this office would, do comprehensive studies and recommendations on ways to remove racial inequities and barriers in the state. And also, as part of its charge, would explore any recommendations that we as a current task force do not have the time to get to, because of course there are way more issues than we have the capacity to tackle at this time. So I just wanted to share that all with you, and I will now yield back to our chairs so they can call on members.
So we have a few hands went up. I believe Dr. Cox, you went up first, and then Secretary Garvin went up next.
I'm just trying to understand the relationship among the various entities that already exist. And I'm not comfortable that I understand those relationships. We've mentioned several, we've mentioned the office that's in the executive branch already. I don't remember what that was. We have the Office of Minority Health, and I don't know exactly how that office actually interacts with DHSS, and whether or not, I mean, it seems to me that health should work with health, but on the other hand, should be under a new executive office that really doesn't have a role yet. There's a lack of clarity for me, and maybe some of the other questions from the other folks who have hands up might help to clarify this. But there's a lot of lack of clarity around this whole topic for me. So I will just.
All right. Hey,
And
just
I'm sorry just to
raise your
jump
hand
in.
again if it doesn't. And then I'm sorry, was that you, Cassandra Johnson?
Yes, and I'm sorry I can't raise my hand. I'm actually in my car trying to listen to this and be hands-free, but I did just want to jump in here. So we are talking about different things, and I think it's important to understand that we're talking about different offices, and we may want to talk about what we're actually trying to achieve here. If it's raising kind of the profiling and the importance, right, of addressing equity in the state, and also addressing health equity. The Bureau of Health Equity is a part of Department of Health and Social Services, so it's a part of DHSS under the Division of Public Health. And Caitlin is correct that existing bureau, the Bureau of Health Equity, is made up of actually two offices. So in the recommendation that was read, we need to understand that it would be breaking apart two offices. The Bureau of Health Equity within the Division of Public Health is made up of two offices. It's the Office of Women's Health and it's the Office of Minority Health that are combined to create the Bureau of Health Equity. Just because when you're talking about women's issues related to equity, and then also Office of Minority Health, the minority health issues, they're often intertwined. So those two offices were combined to create the Bureau of Health Equity, which is again supposed to have a broader scope. But both of those offices, the Office of Minority Health and the Office of Women's Health, each only have one full-time employee in them, and also do not have state budget supporting them.
That 45, I believe, $1,000 that Caitlin talked about is epilogue funding that comes from a source for health disparities. There is no real, budget that supports the Office of Minority Health. So if we're talking about taking that office and then putting it under the executive branch office, which seems like it's a newer office that's still trying to find its way. I just want to make sure, we're making sure we're recommending something that's actually gonna be beneficial to the people in the state. What has happened in actual budget discussions for OMB, the OMB discussions related to DHSS budget, there are calls for additional funding, state funding, and additional positions to be added to the existing Office of Minority Health to fully staff it and adequately fund it. So those are recommendations that are already on the table as a part of the budget process. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Very helpful. And then Secretary Garvin.
I know, I'm breaking my promise. And I was going to say
That's all
ditto
good.
after Miss Jordan Cox spoke, but I think there's a lot of things packed into this recommendation. And again, it's the first time I'm seeing it. And so I think there needs to be further discussion because there's many moving parts here.
So, Caitlin, who owns this one? Because it didn't come through a committee. Who, if we say we
So
need more,
it was a discussion among
From before.
the chairs. So the, Representative Bolden and the chairs of each of the subcommittees.
but if we have to have more discussion, we may have to, I would say we might want to land it somewhere to have that discussion that's having regular meetings and bring it back. So if the will of this body is, hey, we want to have some more dialogue or discussion on it, we're probably going to have to put it somewhere where we can have that dialogue and that discussion.
I agree. I would just invite any full body member who is not
Of
actually a
course.
subcommittee member to attend. You're always welcome.
So with,
I'm in agreement, so I withdraw the recommendation.
I would
Further
also,
discussion.
I would also think of maybe, it's that last sentence that for me creates more of an issue than the first couple of sentences.
Additionally, the legislation should move the Office of Minority Health from the Delaware Department of Health and Social Services to newly created office.
It seems to me that the first two sentences aim at creating some continuity and making sure we have some systematic way of addressing the broader issues that the task force was set out to do. And I think that's a good thing. We need to have some way of doing that. The third sentence just seems to just create a whole nother, it's kind of reorganizing some things that may be working well the way they are, maybe not, I don't know. But they seem to have a different sorts of funding. That third sentence kind of adds a whole nother monkey, so to speak, a wrench, I shouldn't use the word monkey, a wrench in this whole recommendation. But that's just me. Someone else may have an entirely different view.
Well, I know that the Department of Health and Social Services is a huge department. And I know there have been some requests for breaking up or dividing that department up in different areas before 2 or 3 years ago. So I think that might be one of the reasons that was there, to additionally remove it from there and have a separate committee within itself.
And sometimes there's an argument for removing things separately. There's an argument also for keeping them integrated, because when they're integrated, they have access to a much broader resource base. But that's a broader discussion.
They get one budget, and that budget has to be split among all the agencies within under that banner.
Right. So.
All right. So we're going to. What was decided, Mr. Cawley, to hold it for the January meeting?
Before I do that, though, let me just check. Secretary Garvin, is that a new hand wave or old hand wave? I just want to make sure.
Sorry, old hand.
Okay, no worries, no worries. So I think what I was recommending is that because it has to be an addition, we believe there should be additional discussion on this, that we give this to one of our current existing subcommittees. I don't want to volunteer a subcommittee, so I don't know if a chair wants to step up and say, hey, we can own it, and we'll have the discussion in our subcommittee and bring it forth. If not, then myself and our co-chair, we can discuss it offline and then come back to one of the chairs with a recommendation that it should be added to their workload.
Okay.
So this is Representative Johnson. Mr. Co-Chair Colley, so just to make sure I understand what you're asking, you are asking for a subcommittee to step up, take this recommendation, do a little bit of work, and incorporate it into their recommendations, and then come back to this larger body. Is that correct, sir?
Or I would just add, have the conversations with the stakeholders at your next meeting or next couple meetings and really vet it. It may come back similarly as it is now. It may come back different after that conversation. I have a lot of faith in it, in our subcommittees, being able to figure out how it should come back to us and if it needs to come back to us, but to really have that discussion in the subcommittee settings and then revisit us as a whole after that discussion.
Okay, well, Representative Minor Brown might kick me later, but we'll go ahead and assume the responsibility to complete the follow-up related to this recommendation within the Health and Welfare Subcommittee.
So on behalf of the committee, thank you for volunteering. We appreciate you. All right. Caitlin, are we, is there another action item that I'm not seeing on my agenda? Am I missing something? Oh, future
So,
meetings?
We were going back to education, I thought.
Yeah, let me check with Representative Morris, see if she's in a position to give a report. One moment.
Can everyone hear me? Because I got like laryngitis. Hello?
We can hear you.
My camera just won't be on. We have had a subcommittee meeting where we have explored cultural relevance, responsive pedagogy, and adopting the standards. We have had a work group to report, some recommendations that the committee has not voted on yet. So what's going to happen is through some other conversations, based upon one of the recommendations that have been brought out, we are having further discussion about coming up with a framework to where another entity will be able to work on what some cultural relevant state standards to adopt in legislation. That so far is all we have done. That is it.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any questions, thoughts, concerns for education? Hearing and seeing none. Next on the agenda that I see is the future meeting schedule. Perfect. Do we have dates already identified?
We do not. We need to select some dates, and I would like to just, for your consideration, Mr. Colley and Representative Bolden, point out that some of our task force members have other jobs that prevent them from attending these meetings during the normal 9 to 5 workday. So I think we need to definitely consider time of day when we are scheduling our January meeting.
Right, and also remember, Caitlin, I indicated to you that we are in session the second and third week of January.
Yes.
Is when we go back in session. And then the entire month of February, I'm in JFC.
I know
So
we
that's
wanted
why we selected those months, what we came up with for those months.
We do want to squeeze one in January though, correct?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Would the last week of January be okay? I want to make sure we avoid like, the state of the state address.
Right.
Probably usually happens in the third week of January.
Mhm.
And so that would be, we're looking at Monday, January 24th to Friday, January 28th.
Mondays and Fridays are good anyway. I mean, when we're not in session.
Mr. Alcalo, could we look at the first week of January from the 3rd through the 7th? If that's okay with our chair, Madam Chair.
Well, people are just coming back from the holidays. I don't
Oh,
know
okay.
if they need extra time to take down the Christmas trees.
It sounds like we're closer to that last week. And if we're in that last week, is anyone objecting for aiming for that Friday maybe? And Kayla, just so I understand, the time we scheduled today, is that time not good for folks? Because we're saying it's from the 9 to 5, we're saying we have to do it later than that.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there that we
was
may be
3.
able to get some more folks joining us. For example, I know, one of our legislative members has a day job and that, prevented her from being on the call today. So I want to be sensitive to that. But obviously a lot of the other folks that are on this call today also have jobs and are here representing those agencies. So it was just food for thought.
Yeah, I if we're going for like toward a Friday, I worry that we're going to lose more folks if we say Friday and then we go after hours as well. Not
Well, I
that,
think Fridays are out altogether anyway. If Mondays are convenient, then Mondays would be good, even if it's the second week of January or the third week, because we're not in session on Mondays. We're not in
Okay.
session on Mondays and Fridays. However, I'm sure people are going away or doing something on a Friday or going to happy hour somewhere. I know, but if a Monday's convenient, then fine. And then some people, because they are at work, have the liberty to take time while they're at work to do a Zoom meeting or something like that. However,
So what about 4 o'clock on the 24th or the 31st? Those are both Mondays.
right. Well, I mean, I think it's the time frame that Caitlin's looking at, because some people don't get off work until 5. That's why I was saying I don't know if they have time within their job in which they could do have a meeting that's, that would interfere with their normal job.
I mean, a 4 to 6 time frame might be doable.
And they can come on, once they finish, if they feel like it. That's the thing, working all day.
So are we all in agreement that our next meeting will be Monday, January 24th from 4 to 6 p.m.?
Yes, let's aim for that, and then you'll let us know once you send out the invite if we don't have enough quorum that RSVPs.
Or why won't you just ask if anyone that's not able to be there on the 24th,
right,
from 4 to 6, raise your hand. Okay. Do you see any hands? Because I don't see anything.
I
I don't see
don't.
a hand currently.
I'm looking for physical hands or Zoom hands, and I don't see any.
My hand is up. This is Senator Pinckney. I don't get off until 4:30, but it's only a half hour. I'll jump on from my phone and then
Okay.
if it's okay.
That works.
Okay.
It takes us 30 minutes to get really into it anyway, so you'll be jumping in as we.
You are right. You are right.
Exactly.
All right.
Okay.
The next month is March.
Can we
We're
do
in
we need to
session.
schedule March, May, and July now, or can we send out a pool, or do you want to schedule it now? Caitlin, is your goal to schedule
Um,
all remaining meetings now?
I think it's safe to just schedule January at this point. I do want to allow time for public comment. And we
Okay.
are at, 12 minutes
Right.
till the end of the meeting.
Agreed.
And some of us have 5 o'clock meetings.
Fair enough. Can we move into public comment?
So move.
I see that Rep. Dorsey Walker has her hand raised.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, Madam Chair and Mr. Co-Chair. I just wanted to say thank you to Senator Lockman for her very kind words.
You're welcome, Representative.
Okay, now we can move on to public comment. If you would like to give public comment, please raise your hand. I will call on folks in the order in which I see them raising their hand. And so up first, we have Donald Farrell. Donald, you should be able to speak now.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Donald Farrell, and I live on the east side of Wilmington. I'm a landlord and a tenant rights advocate. My comments are directed to the Health and Welfare Subcommittee. I'm also one of the outreach partners with the Newcastle County No Lead program, and I also participate in the Educational and Parental Engagement Subcommittee of the Childhood Lead Poisoning Advisory Committee. Because the majority of housing stock in Wilmington is pre-1978, particularly on the east side and in other parts of the states, many children are exposed to lead and adversely impacted, resulting in decreased IQ, negative educational outcome, and behavioral issues. I wanted to have a community-wide lead screening event for children and pregnant women during Childhood Lead Prevention Week, which was October 24th to the 30th. However, I was unable to when I learned that there was a nationwide recall of the machine that is widely used in doctors and school nurses' offices and community health centers. And this recall prior to this resulted in falsely low test results. Since lead exposure testing and prevention is being meaningfully addressed, I would ask that you have DHSS on the next agenda for your meeting to discuss the recall and its impact on the children and the affected testing results in the state. Finally, since the recall wasn't publicized, would this committee make a recommendation to discuss with our congressional delegation to find out if hearings are warranted to investigate this matter and to hold any and all parties accountable? Also, what is being done, when will it be done, and to provide any present and future compensation to any children affected by this recall by establishing a nationwide fund to assist children experiencing damage from the lead exposure. As we know, lead exposure is irreversible and permanent and has lifelong consequences. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If anybody else would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. I don't see any other raised hands. As a general note, you can always send comments to African American Task Force at delaware.gov. Thank you.
Okay, is that no further comments? Public?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to congratulate Caitlin in her new position that she has and all the work that she's been doing with this task force. Thank you, Caitlin, so very, very much for everything that you do. We truly appreciate it because you go beyond and above. of
Thank
all
you,
that is
Representative.
required of you on this particular task force. And also thank the many, many members who volunteer their time regarding and being on this task force. We truly appreciate everything you do, and we truly appreciate the comments and your participation. And many, many thanks to the subcommittee chairs and the fantastic job that each one of you are doing. And hopefully, not hopefully, but we will have a fantastic report that we will be giving next year. But meanwhile, we will still be going forward in a lot of the suggestions that you have mentioned, taking them forward and trying to get legislation done within that, but keeping in mind that all this legislation is coming from and as a result of the African American Task Force. And without further ado, I'd like to wish everyone a fantastic Thanksgiving, to be safe, wash your hands, wear your mask, get your shots, and don't eat too much turkey. But a side note, if anybody wants to volunteer, I feed seniors every single year. This will be my 27th year at Boston Market. We fix dinners and we take them to the high rises and other seniors that may be shut in. We are there from 9 in the morning until 12 noon, and we're finished by then. So God bless, and thank you very much again, Mr. Coley.
I couldn't have said it better. I'll just say ditto. Thank you all. Appreciate you all. Look forward to our next meeting.
Motion to
Have a great
adjourn.
evening. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.